Above all, we must realize that no arsenal or no weapon in the arsenals of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women. It is a weapon our adversaries in today's world do not have. It is a weapon that we as Americans do have. Let that be understood by those who practice terrorism and prey upon their neighbors.
I'm standing here in Washington, D.C., and the difference is so stark. America's founding document promises life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Iran's founding document pledges death, tyranny, and the pursuit of jihad. And as states are collapsing across the Middle East, Iran is charging into the void to do just that.
Two great speeches separated by 34 years of history, one given by an American president on the west front of our Capitol, the other by an Israeli prime minister to a joint session of our Congress, both dealing with a threat we still confront. Soaring rhetoric serves as a call to action, but a major address can also serve as the rhetorical version of a shiny new object, drawing our attention away from other items. January 20th, 1981 featured two major stories. Of course, the inauguration of our 40th President Ronald Reagan, and also the release of 52 American hostages by Iran. But there was a third story that day, and the headlines the other two commanded may have played a major role in the announcement of story number 3. It was the word that Joan and Ted Kennedy were ending their 23-year marriage and would seek a divorce. In late 20th century America, and perhaps even today, there is little that would divorce the Kennedy name from the celebrity and publicity spotlight. Except, of course, the inauguration of a new president and the release of those American hostages. So, news of the pending Kennedy divorce, which on a slow news day might have commanded the headlines, instead became little more than a footnote. In much the same way, two stories attracted our attention yesterday, the Netanyahu speech certainly, and also the revelation that Hillary Clinton had used a personal email account exclusively throughout her tenure as Secretary of State, an action that may very well be a violation of federal law. With Washington tongues wagging about those two big stories, House Speaker John Boehner saw his chance. No sooner did the gavel fall on the joint session and the extra TV lights turned off than the House resumed debate on funding for Homeland Security. And Speaker Boehner caved. He abandoned the Hastert rule, the unofficial but very effective guideline established during my days in Congress by another Republican speaker, Denny Hastert. Simply stated, the Hastert rule was this: no legislation would come to the floor for a vote unless it was supported by a majority of the majority. In other words, a majority of the Republicans. Yesterday afternoon, a minority of that majority, 75 members of the GOP, voted with all the Democrats to fully fund the Department of Homeland Security, and in so doing, also fund the president's unconstitutional amnesty. No wonder the Speaker chose a nonverbal response when the member of the Capitol Press Corps questioned him about it last week.
You're going to put it on the floor? You're going to kill it? You're going to want to vote on it? Have you even had this discussion?
When I make decisions, I'll let you know.
In the wake of yesterday's vote, one blogger wrote that the Speaker's kiss was intended for our president's derriere. One thing's for sure. John Boehner has kissed off grassroots conservatives. Of course, he has 75 members of his conference who have likewise embraced amnesty, and with it, the business as usual, even if it's illegal and unconstitutional, feelings of the Washington establishment. Meantime, 165 Republicans said no and voted no, no doubt remembering they won votes last November by promising they would take down the president's unconstitutional amnesty. So it's come down to this: how long will the Speaker remain Speaker? John Gizzi says he'll be there for a long time. But I will tell you this: conservatives on the Hill may take their cue from that Kennedy divorce 34 years ago. And in the case of their relationship with Speaker Boehner and the establishment, cite irreconcilable differences.